Alright guys, welcome to the video. Something different format. I came up with an idea last night and I thought, you know what, I'm going to do a video where I'm going to read through the comments from the most recent to a little bit, a week back or 2 weeks back, and try and keep it a very short video and kind of answer the questions that I've been asked again. Now, people that have commented probably already got the answer they want, but the people that are also watching, you guys, you may also want to kind of see the comments that are going back and forth with us. You may not watch all the videos, so this gives you a good opportunity to see what we're talking about, what's been going on this channel, and if you have any follow-up questions, you basically can comment on this video, and I can respond to you here and maybe do another one of these videos later on. So let's get started. I've never done this before, so I've just got to try and do this while we're recording. First, most recent comment from DJ Hynomus, if that's how I pronounce it. He asked, is there a different setting for hill descent control? Now, in the Adventurers, hill descent control is a feature that's available in the V6 only, and you basically can adjust the cruise control knob up and down to get faster and slower hill descent control. So a lot of adventure runners don't actually know that. The same user here also asks, so in the Adventurer, it's 18 PSI, ESP off, active select, first gear, and then work out the throttle control for the Crosstrek to work. And if you get stuck where you need more front wheel engagement, apply handbrake to slow rear wheels to engage front. Any other big tips I'm missing? I think I've watched all your vids looking for tips. Thanks heaps. But any more advice for someone that is about to hit the sand and some hills in the V6 Addy? Also, do you turn on that HDC when descending down the hills? Now, I just responded to this one before I actually went and made this video. Basically, tire pressures, 18 PSI for me is a good starting point. I generally will find if it's super soft, I'll go down as low as 15, but 18 is a really good starting point, especially if your tires are cold, because they will go up a few PSI as they're heating up. ESP is always off in the sand. In fact, ESP is always off anything off-road in the V6, and always active select. I always pick first gear, mainly because then I've got some control over the output I'm getting from the engine, depending if I'm first or second. But as you learn your car over time, and I find that first is a good starting point. When you find your engine's, performing really well, you can flick to second and see if the torque range, 2.5 RPM is 2,500 RPM is good enough. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. It really depends on the terrain. Now, you mentioned here something about throttle control for Crosstrek. So the Crosstrek, which is the traction control system in the Adventurer, is basically, its programming is designed to be reactive to wheel slip. So I find if you drive tracks really carefully, when you get like a wheel that lifts up, the Crosstrek engages. What I have found though is if you're very aggressive on the throttle, Crosstrek will kind of be very ineffective. And in some cases, if you throttle to like 90% or more, Crosstrek becomes completely ineffective. In some sense, and from what I'm understanding, it actually cancels out the program completely. So then you're running just like a normal all-wheel drive. So as soon as you get a wheel up, you'll just start slipping. That's probably why you'll see a lot of our send it kind of things up hills. Even once we get a wheel up, we just have that spinning wheel because Crosstrek's not engaging for that exact reason. Because if you've given the engine or given the computer in the car 100% throttle, it just kind of says, oh, well, too bad. You want me to go full power? I'm not going to try and prevent wheel slip and just let you do what you want to do. So that's why throttle control is really good, because if we back the throttle control into a setting where the curve is very slow, doesn't matter if I put my foot down to like 80%, it's going to slowly go, 10, 20, 30, 40% on the throttle and not just climb straight away, giving me like the most effective output out of Crosstrek. Where if I had the throttle controller in performance mode, if I put my foot down, it's just going to go from 10% straight up to 90%, and Crosstrek's kind of just not going to do its thing. I find in the sand, power is king, but you've got to find that good balance of not giving the transmission a hard time, not giving your engine a hard time, but traversing the sand at something comfortable, especially if you've got to go for distance after distance. I know in Simpson Desert, I got as low as third gear at around about 2100 RPM, and it was very, very happy doing Simpson Desert on the French line where it was flat, and I had to go to second gear, and be, you know, in around about 3 to 3,500 RPM to kind of get kind of the right amount of power. So I found with it, whenever it came to hills, I would be all the way in first gear and really pushing it around to 4,500 to 5,500 RPM to climb those hills that were very, very soft. So it's just one of those things. You have to figure out what kind of works for you. My Adventure is tuned, so because mine does it in those gears, doesn't necessarily mean yours will in the V6. I know Will can't do what I do, and his is a stock tune in his V6. So, and we're very equally set up in terms of vehicle modifications. Going to the next one. Sorry, I dragged on a bit there. Muscle Car Guy 2338. Well, once you figure it out, the V8 made it look easy. If I click that, are we going to be able to get back? I don't know. I don't really want to do that. I'm not too sure. That video was a video we did where we're comparing the V6 and V8 Holden Adventurer up at some tracks in Crosstrek in Victoria. Not a really good comparison because I think the V6 is much more modified than the V8 at the moment. So time will tell whether the V8 and V6s are different. My personal opinion is that they are significantly different. Without going into detail, the V8 runs a much older Bosch traction control system than the V6, and the V8 just has too much torque, so it just overpowers the braking system, and as a driver you just forget that, so you're just basically fighting your brakes all the time and the engine's just winning. Mr. Magnat 007, well Chris, my Great Wall got wiped out on Sunday, so it looks like I'm going to have to go with the blue oval, as you seem to have bought all the LX6 Adventurers that were available. Funny joke, I buy the wrecks. If they come up cheap, I just buy them for parts or buy them to fix, and we you know, fix them up and sell them. Most of the profit to be made goes back into the channel, so I can keep building the channel up. So I'm not buying them all, guys. I am literally buying them to make a little bit of money, fix them up, sell them off to people that want a nice adventurer, and then using any profits I make out of that to build up this channel. He also says, I remember him saying here, the Great Wall does get a lot of crap for being Chinese made, but this particular vehicle saved his life and the life of the rider who hit him. So that's, I mean, look, there'll be another comment down here. I think someone commented about the Tank 300, but that Tank 300, this, he didn't own a Tank 300. He owned, I think, a Great Wall. But what I'm trying to say is, Chinese-made vehicles doesn't really matter. My opinion is, there's a lot of things made in China these days, and we still use them every day. They may not be Australian-made, but doesn't mean that they're shit. I could go on for hours talking about this. People have got to wake up to the fact that some things are designed in other countries and made in China. A lot of those products we actually own already. And if you're a person that says, yeah, it's made in China, it's crap, you'd probably be quite surprised how much stuff in your house is made in China these days. Matt Thurling 389, great adventure, happy anniversary. So he was commenting on a video where I was out in the Toyota Fortuner, and I think I was on an anniversary trip with the wife. That's a good video to watch if you want to see us do Collingwood Spur Track. And actually, I think I get stuck later in the day, and we had to use Max Tracks, and I got covered in mud. It was kind of funny. Good little video there earlier in the year. Matt Sterling again, 389, great vid. Great to see you guys trailing in the wet. The way, I think he means that looked a bit rough for you guys. Hope we can hit the Wallaby track in October. So we're up at Crosstrek a couple of weeks ago. We did Wallaby track with a viewer that wanted to go out on a whim one day, and we really bashed around the adventurers. I think I popped a couple of wheel guards off and bent a few lights and stuff like that I'd mounted on the back. Got a lot of mud everywhere. It was just crazy. But I don't often do the wet stuff. You guys have probably noticed that on this channel. But I do try and get out every now and again just to try and push the Adventurer. I think one of the things we've got planned is the V8 Adventurer will end up getting muddies and probably a little bit bigger tyre radius. So probably next year, come winter season, you'll see the V8 out in the mud, seeing if we can get some decent amount of traction with proper muddies on it. So stay tuned for that. Something will get happening. I'm pretty keen. The reason why I haven't really modified much anymore on my V6 is I've got it like at a perfect place. There's so many things out in the high country where I look at and I go, that looks iffy, but for some reason my Adventure just does it. Sometimes easily. Till I find something that the Adventure just can't do in the dry, I probably won't start modifying too much. It's just at a really good place at the moment, and it's kind of reliable, so I just want to keep it that way. Another reason why we're getting another Adventure on the channel, so we can start experimenting a little bit, but always having that one Adventure that we can kind of rely on. It's like my little baby project. I don't want to destroy it, but it's just something that's worked out so well, and I've driven for the last 8 years. I just don't want to destroy it, if that makes sense to people. May not. Fazer and I did a drill out more, but add fine mesh, 3-core stainless steel scour pad to the inner tappet cover. Oh, okay, so this guy here is talking about a PCV modification that we do on the Alloytex. Very common on Commodore V6s, VZ onwards. They basically drill out the PCV, which is actually not a one-way valve. It's like it's just a venting valve to release positive pressure in the engine. There was a lot of talk and controversy about if you don't do this mod, you get too much pressure built up in the engine, and then you get leaking seals, and it is true, but it's a very big discussion to be had. And these Alloytech engines, 15 years later, they're doing so good if they're serviced the right way. Anyone who says the Alloytech engines are crap probably has never owned one properly, or owned one expecting it's going to perform like some of the Ecotechs that could be neglected and ran forever. These are not the same type of engines, and we're only really just understanding their capabilities in the last half a decade. So a lot of people putting good power through them too. Have you looked at lockers for the rear forward drive system by Morph Shag? We haven't really looked at rear lockers, front lockers, or anything like that. I've got a Eaton True Track in the back of mine, and we're looking to get the same Eaton True Track in the back of the V8 and potentially in the front diff. So that's something that might be coming in the next year, I would guess. I see though with a Torsen LSD in the front, Torsen LSD in the back, especially in the V8, we might break something. So we'll see how we go. It could be a project that ends up in tears. Ozguy4385. Lol, and you guys, you said on Mad Matt that you were not a flog and hated right foot warriors. Am I one? Well, I mean, man, that's your opinion. Unless you're out there doing what we do in these vehicles, you probably are just an armchair watcher. Look, I'm not. I don't think I need to respond to that. It's up to you to have your own opinion on what you think I am or whatever. So I didn't respond to this because when I read this, I just ignored it. It's always just someone just wanting to cause trouble, in my opinion. Elvis Didovic, I think that is. Cool that you're having a crack, but let's be honest, if you drive anything this way, you would have the same result, no skill needed whatsoever. Tires have way too much pressure, not cleaning mud, no lockers, no clearance. So, look, we're out having fun. You are right, we're giving it a crack. We didn't know what this track had for us. When the viewer came along and said, hey, come out for a bit of four-wheel drive, we'll, give the adventurers a bit of a test run. There wasn't anything on that day that we couldn't do that the four-wheel drive could do. If anything, it's my opinion that I think the adventurers did it better anyway. Neither of us had muddies. It was slop out there. We all had to winch in the same sections, and if anything, anywhere where we did get out without winching, we got much further than the four-wheel drive did. Probably because, like you said, we just giving it the center attitude. So, but I mean, look, we still had fun. I think we had good clearance in most of it, except for one section. And I don't even think the four-wheel drive would have had that clearance anyway. So we would have been equal on that. And none of us had lockers, and none of us had muddies. So The only mud clearing we were probably doing is with the extreme RPM we had coming through the drive line and just spinning those smaller radius wheels and kind of ejecting the mud, where the four-wheel drive kind of had the bigger wheels and it couldn't spin it as fast for any type of ejection. Not to mention that all-terrains don't really have that type of tread profile either. Storig 9260. Again, the front brakes were not coping. Probably too hot by now. Need to upgrade brake pads for that for situations like that. So, same video. He's talking about when Pig was trying to drive up a bit of a muddy section. You can see that just there wasn't really much wheel braking to prevent slip, and there wasn't really Crosstrek wasn't really doing its job. So the most effective part of the Adventurer isn't working. So they're basically just a all-wheel drive. In the end, really a single pegger when it kind of just wants to push all that V8 power out one wheel that's slipping. And what he's saying is that we need to improve the brakes on Pig. Now, we actually found that Pig actually had a brake fluid leak, because at the end of this day, and we only noticed this after we were about to head home, he was very low on brake fluid. So once we pulled the car apart when we got back home, we realised that there was actually some rusted lines underneath the car. So whoever owned it before us must have taken it on the beach a lot, and maybe there's a lot of rust that corroded some of the brake lines. So we're just pulling them all out next weekend and putting new ones in. But yes, brakes are key for the Adventurers. And at the moment, I am looking at putting HSV rear brakes on. So I think they're double pot brakes on the same brake rotor size, but it just gives us more brakeability. So that'll be pretty interesting to see how that changes it, because our fronts can hold in the V6, but the rears, the torque in the V6 still forces them to slip. And I do run hot brakes in my Adventurer, so they're very, very effective when Crosstrek's been working really hard. Storig again says that you need to work on Pig's brakes, Pig being the V8 Adventurer, that's its code name. Even the front left was not turning as the front right was spinning, as he nearly got over the top at 10 minutes and 7 seconds. The rears are struggling with the V8 torque. Either you need different pads, sticky at high temps, as I was saying about hot brakes, an SSZ vented rear rotor, or go HSV, which is what I want, on the rears at least. Fronts not so much. The fronts on the Adventurer are actually pretty decent. I think they're bigger than Commodore brakes overall. The pads that go in them just have more coverage. That will force you to use V8 rims. Yeah. So basically, if we put big brakes on the front of the Adventurer, we lose the ability to run 16s. We have to run 18. So for that reason, we stick with the stock brake system. So he obviously knows that. And for slippery mud, use more aggressive tyres. Pig mud terrains hopefully next year. I personally don't feel that there is many cars that can drive in mud unless they can fit aggressive tread. I mean, if you can't walk it up, how do you expect a 2-ton car to do it? So in this video, when I was walking up this track, I couldn't even place my feet without almost falling over. And I actually said in the video, if I can't walk up it, how's a car going to do that? So, yeah. Typist, you reckon these Adventurers could be fitted with a diff lock, much like the Ford RTVs? As I respond to that, anything's possible, but I haven't done the research to see. And if we did do that, there's a lot to think about. Like, I've even thought about what would happen if you put the live axle out of the Cross into the Adventurer. I've thought of a lot of different things to improve the capability of the Adventurer, but at the end of the day, I'm not an engineer, and before I even started forward driving and off-roading, the only knowledge I had about cars was, well, nothing. I'm a computer guy by trade, so I was not like involved in this industry in any way before I started off-roading 8 years ago. I've literally picked everything up as time has gone on myself, and I've learned everything off YouTube, off the community, and pulled engines apart, partially rebuilt them, did bigger rebuilds, pulled brakes apart, pulled diffs apart. I learned how everything mechanically works over time by fiddling around. And yeah, I've made mistakes, but I've learnt from them, and that's actually what's made me so confident about working on these cars now. I'm not scared if I had to do any work on these cars on the side of a track. I carry pretty much every single tool I need to almost pull it completely apart with me all the time. Kyle Fields 1112. The V6 is more lift and bigger rubber. Yeah, true. As I said before, the comparison between the V6 and V8 in our most recent video, probably not amazing because Pig is kind of like almost stock form, and my V6 is what I would consider reasonably modified for off-road. Here we go. I like seeing a couple more Holdens end up in the scrapyard. Never use traction control, only for bitumen. So that's what Harry Walker 968 says, and that's just wrong. So like hasn't got a clue. That's all I have to say about that. There's a difference between on-road stability control and an off-road traction control system. Bush Turkey 1019 ends up coming in and saying, yeah, all-terrain action, similar arrangement that we have in the Crosstrek that they have in the Jeep Quadtrack 2, which is a reactive system that detects slip, stops the wheels at lost traction, and sends power to the opposing wheel. So he has some clue of what's going on. Something you guys, and I've probably said this before, you got to realize the Adventurer, it was designed and built in 2002. And so that's 21 years ago. And in 2003, they came out in the V8. So exactly 2 decades ago. No, 2 decades ago? What are we? 2003. 2023. Yeah, that's 20 years. So 20 years, and that's technology they had available on like a Commodore on steroids. And then in 2004/2005, when they brought the VZ and put the V6 in it, they also put the better Bosch 8 platform in it. And the V6 Adventurer was just, it had this traction control system all like 18 years ago. I can't tell you what other four-wheel drives 18 years ago would have had a similar reactive system to what the Adventurers had. In its time, the Adventurer was was what I would consider an amazing off-roader for the light stuff, you know. For what they were just totally underrated. I just have to say that again because you've got to think about that. These cars now, 20 years later, are keeping up with many stock four-wheel drives, which is kind of amazing in my opinion. Are you guys airing down what PSI you're running? So I think Stephen Not 6139 was saying, why aren't we airing down, basically? Because it looked like in the video we probably didn't have enough air out. And at the start of the day when we're airing down, Wal says to me, what are you airing down to? And I said, oh, look, I might just air down to maybe 23, 24. I think I end up going with 24. And the reason why is, I don't know if you've ever changed a tyre in the mud, it is painful. So I opted in for, I decided I'm going to just go for a slightly higher pressure, avoid popping a tyre off the rim, and just not be able to climb up something. We'll just winch if we have to. I didn't really want to do any tyre swaps on the track that day. It was kind of we only decided at 11 p.m. that night we're going the next day. So I just want a nice cruisy day. So that's why I probably didn't go down any further. Some might call me lazy. I've just had my fair share of days where I have to change tyres on the side of the track. Not fun. Not fun cleaning them. It's just a terrible day when you spend hours doing that. Moving on. Tyler Ayton, 7387. Hey mate, just bought a sweet as 2005 LX6 Adventure about a month ago. Just wondering what you think about beach driving with it, especially in moderate soft sand. Also wondering if you had any handy and useful tips and tricks to help out such a during style. Not sure what he means by that. Tire pressure, ESP, and whatnot. Cheers, mate. So, I gave him a rundown of how I would basically drive the Adventurer off-road when it comes to the beach. I just explained, I start at 18 PSI, turn off ESP, active select, all the usual stuff I think I talked about at the start of this video with another viewer. That's all you need. And I think the biggest thing you've got to realise is when you're on the sand, you want to make sure your tyres are ballooning over the sand, not cutting into the sand and digging yourself down. So check that out. If you're fighting the sand a lot, you're probably cutting. Get out, drop your pressures down more, drive again. And as the car finds it easier to do, you'll realise, because you're kind of not having to make the car work as hard when it comes to the power. Just something you pick up doing it yourself. And don't be afraid to go down pressures. Like in the sand, not much can really go wrong when you're going down in pressures. I mean, you might get to like 14 psi. Yeah, the front tires, 14 psi. They probably wouldn't go lower than that on the front tires, personally. And our cars are generally light. The back, I'd go down to 12. I wouldn't even be worried. But yeah, the fronts, 14 is probably like the max I'd go out in the sand. And 14 versus 15 versus 16 versus 17, huge differences. It's not like when you're comparing 26 psi versus 27 psi versus 28 psi. The differences there are very, very little. But when you're comparing, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, those 1 psi differences, big difference when it comes to the sand. I didn't even know that until I experienced playing around with psi pressures on the beach. Probably not only recently, maybe in the last 2 or 3 years. Jason Fields, 27.93. Poor pig comes home in her own boot. Yeah, unfortunately. Well, a lot of the guards he put on pig to get it registered, he didn't put them on like with all the screws in. He just put them on so it would stay there. I think that's why they kind of fell off really easily. Wow, we're at 26 minutes and we're only 7 days ago. Comments. Excuse me. I won't drag this on anymore because if I keep going on, we'll be here all night. Like, I didn't realize this is how long it will take just to go through 7 days of comments. Tell me what you think. If you've made it this far in the video, I know I talk a lot of stuff and sometimes a little bit confusing, but tell me what you think about this video. If you like this video, the format, the responding, because sometimes I'll explain things a little bit better in person and sometimes I'll just make it more confusing. But tell me what you think about this video in the comments below. Hit the like button, because the like button's good, guys. It tells YouTube these videos are good and it shows other people. So help us grow. And, we can do more of these if that's what you like. Warmer weather's coming up. So we're going to be getting out again. I can't wait. I've just been decking out more things in the T-van. Not because I'm trying to get more comfortable, but so I can kind of do long-term traveling. I want to do a bit of long-term traveling in the next few years. Some of it on my own. So I need to be able to have, my work laptop, my all-terrain action editing laptop. I've got to have a few comforts. So, if I'm away 4 weeks at a time, I'll be able to have showers and all that stuff. I'll have all my work gear. I'll be able to edit my videos, publish them to YouTube with the Starlink. Good amount of power, so I can do it. So that's what I've been building towards. I am keen to hear what you guys think about that. I'm kind of excited to do a bit of traveling, and I'll be doing some traveling probably with the kids too, in the coming years once they're a little bit older. So stay tuned. Good stuff coming as always, and that's it. If you're not on our Facebook group, check it out. All our socials are available on the top right-hand corner of our channel page, I think. And in case you want to check out any of our other blog posts and stuff like that, allterrainaction.com, plenty of stuff there. Get involved. Be part of the community. We're making change. Catch you guys later.